I would like to thank Hüseyin Kami Hoca, who organized this conference, and I would like to salute all the audience and the viewers of this conference. My name is Hasan YETIM. I do work in the Halal Food R&D Center of Istanbul Sabahattin Zaim University. Today I will be talking about the insect protein and artificial meat. When we say protein, we see that it is important in order to maintain all the essential functions in our body. It is very important for our body. And the quality of the protein is as important as the material itself. The quantity, the number of essential amino acids, and their digestion and emission are very important because they are necessary for the body and they cannot be synthesized by the body. Therefore, we have to have some intake of protein from animal sources. Due to the quality of protein, we see that the demand of the animal, demand for the animal resources, the animal meat, is increasing, but the world population is expected to reach to 9 to 9.5 billion at the end of 2050. This will mean that the food consumption will increase by 70% and the meat consumption will be doubled. 35 to 40 grams of meat consumption is in question per capita today, and this is like this is triple the amount of the annual consumption of people in 1960s, and we believe that this will increase exponentially by 2050 in the future. So this increasing demand for animal resources and the fact that it causes some environmental problems leading by the excessive use of energy, creating more greenhouse gases and more occupation of lands and an increased water consumption, thereby increasing the temperature in the atmosphere, causing global warming. Accompanied by climate changes and such worries and concerns are expressed. Well, of course, we have to consume animal sources, but the animal sources will not be sufficient in the future. So some algae, some insects, some microbial proteins and fat, the non-meat products, artificial meat, cheese without milk, and other fermented products are recommended for our use in the future years. So let's discuss what artificial meat is. Artificial meat is a concept that was first used in 1930s, but it was only realized in 2013. The alternative meat, clear meat, cultured meat, non-animal meat, or lab-produced meat are the terms that are used to express this kind of food in our community, and it is discussed as an alternative to the increasing demand for meat. There are two alternatives for artificial meat, one of which is the one that is produced in laboratories in the test tubes with petroplaques and cultured. The second is the plant-based meat that use the plant-based proteins. So the cultured meat or the artificial meat that we can say is a product that is using the stem cells and their development that are taken from a real animal, and they are grown and reproduced in the suitable environments. They are converted into massive muscle tissues and thereby creating a meat-like product. So artificial meat is not a meat, not meat at all. It is just like a similar to meat product.
Evet, burada kısaca işte şurada sığır veya domuzdan
We see the pig or the cattle here. They are having biopsy. Stem cells are taken. Then the cells are reproduced in the labs, and after the muscles are produced from these structures, they are converted into meat and meat-like, products in terms of visual appearance as well in the labs. Well, of course, there's been some, good investments in the world. Moza, a Netherlandish, Hollandish company, who did the first artificial meat, but 1 kilo of meat costed them $280,000 with all the technology, all the tests, etc. But of course, the technology advanced, and the cost of 1 kilo of artificial meat was around $100. The prediction was $10, but the realized price is like $100 per kilo. In 2018, this meat costed $800. It went down to $112 in 2019, and in 2021 it could only go down to $10, not any longer. The thing that I would like to underline here is that we do purchase the meat by kilogram, but the artificial meat and its cost of production is made through the liter, because the material that is collected, that is grown in the labs, is like a mud-like, almost liquid product, and only going through some processes later on, it has it comes to have the shape of meat. Most important companies that have investments in artificial meat led by Memphis Meats, they have done $161 million of investments, and in the world a total of $300 million have been invested to artificial meat business. 25% of which for cattle meat, 20% for chicken meat, 20% for pig, 20% for sea products, and the remaining is the others. So the artificial meat that is produced in the laboratory was claimed to be sold in the restaurants in 2021 and will be sold in the supermarkets by 2023, but this target, this prediction and this claim was proved to be wrong. They had to delay their works, and they couldn't meet up with their time schedule. So this this commercial use of artificial meat is still in theory, and many factors can change in the future before the commercialization of the artificial meat in the future. America, the US, Israel, the Netherlands, and Singapore, and some similar countries focus on the artificial meat, and in total 80 companies work in this field, and they are talking about some analog meat that is produced by using the plant-sourced proteins, the vegetable proteins, and it is predicted that the market value of that artificial meat, this analog meat, will reach up to $16 billion in the future. You can see the structure of the artificial meat used to it, done with plant proteins. Well, stem cells and tissue engineering is used to produce artificial meat.
Ancak tabii bütün üretimler henüz daha laboratuvar ortamında olduğu için
And since all the meats that is produced are in the lab environment, the industrial production is not ready yet. Therefore, it could not be commercialized yet. The method is, as I have explained, biopsy is made to extract the stem cell from an animal. And in the lab environment, they are reproduced just as it is done with the bacteria. And scaffolds are added. The scaffolds are made from gelatin, gelatin or collagens, a sponge-like material. It's like a construction scaffold. Is added to this bioreactor. In this bioreactor, the cells adhere to these scaffolds and they develop. Without that scaffold, the cells are unable to grow. The scaffolds are, as I said, sponge-like structures that create a support for the meat to adhere to. They are very important. They are indispensable elements of artificial meat production. This, of course, constitutes a risk and some question marks for the Muslims.
Evet, ön gelişimi laboratuvar ortamında tamamlanan kas hücreleri
so the muscle cells that are grown in the lab environment are added to the bioreactors, and all the proteins, fats, and growth factors, hormones, enzymes, etc. are added to this bioreactor. The total of, I think, additives are 150, I suppose. A solution is prepared with this 150 additives, and it is added to this bioreactor, and the stem cells grow with the help of these additives, and with the scaffolds, of course. The first material is a gel-like structure that looks nothing like meat. Then colorants and the meat flavors are added to that product, and it is processed to look like meat and taste like meat and used as meatballs or sausages, burgers, etc. This is the same graphic that we have seen at the beginning of the presentation. They are multiplied and processed. Well, of course, these, what I tell you is like the simplified process. Actually, each phase here requires an advanced technology. It's not like, it's not like anyone can get a lab and do it, of course. It requires big investments, big equipments and hardware, etc. So we see another factor that requires attention. This is meiogenesis. For the cells to be multiplied and reproduced in this, labs, we need to use a liquid material. So what's this liquid material? It is, by the way, handled by the plasma of the cattle, a pregnant cattle. So the unborn,
Ceninlerinin kanları boşaltılıyor. Bunların serumu süzülüyor ve bu
so the unborn
bioreaktörlerin
cattle actually are subjected to abortion. The blood is taken and it's used as the liquid in this process.
hususlardan bir tanesi
So this is one of the reasons
bu
that
fetal
this process
bovine
is
serum
very
dediğimiz
expensive. This fetal bovine serum
buzağı
is
cenini
very expensive. This
bunun
is like
içerisinde
the serum of the cattle embryo.
işte farklı madde bulunuyor, amino asitler,
It has hundreds of different materials inside: amino acids, fats, ions, vitamins, minerals, hormones, growth factors, and lots of it's almost like a cocktail of all the agents that is required by the stem cells to regrow.
Ayrıca buranın içerisinde
And here
mikrop çoğalmaması için de
we know that a high deal of antibiotics, of fungicides, and other antimicrobial substances are added to this solution to prevent the reproduction of microbes.
Şurada vaktimiz sınırlı olduğu için hızlı geçeceğim ben.
I will skip these parts because our time is limited.
Hayvanların doğmamış gebe sığırların ceninleri alınarak
But we can see here that we take the genins, we take the
serumları ayrılıp
embryo from the pregnant cattle, and it is centrifuged, it's purified and used here. So what's the difference between the real, the natural, and the artificial meat? The differences are quite a lot. It's actually a subject of a different presentation. But I can tell you that it would never look like the natural meat without colorants and flavors and kind of, consistency agents, etc. It is like a plasma mud-like substance that is made of proteins, etc. So about the general concerns of the potential consumers of artificial meat. Well, of course, the first concern is its authenticity, its vision, its appearance. And another concern is whether it will, enable us to use less animals. The risks concerning its consumption are unknown. We are not sure whether it will constitute any problems. And utilization of, undesired food materials may be used in their ingredients. Another concern is that its price is so high. Another concern is that its legal status is still unclear. Another concern that it's still under discussion in terms of religious and philosophical authorities. So all of this combined make this artificial meat business very complex and complicated. About prosperity of the animals, artificial meat is regarded as an insult for the animals as well. It is regarded as animal cruelty too. And for the religious standpoint, it is also criticized a lot. And it is regarded as a cannibalism as well, because we don't know which embryo is used, and we do not know the real purpose of the agencies like that. And the fact that this business is open to any kind of tricks, any kind of derails and corruption. All of this combined bring about ethical and religious concerns altogether. The vegan say that it is problematic because it is a part of human. The Hindus say that it is an insult to animals and animal prosperity. It is also discussed that there is a possibility of using a serum that can be that can be gathered from human placenta, which would result with cannibalism. In Judaism, it says that it might contradict with the belief of Judaism. And Islam has pointed out two important rules for a food to be classified as halal. The first thing is that the animal shall be halal according to Islamic beliefs. The animal should be halal and the slaughtering method should be halal by Islam. The other thing is the liquid and the scaffold that will be used to grow this artificial meat shall comply with the halal criteria. So even though the stem cell is taken from an animal that is halal, if the scaffold is used from pig gelatin, or if the bull placenta is used, Islam never accepts the use of placenta in the fruit products. So these materials, this soup of proteins, I would say, get help by many additives later on to look like meat, and the additives and their halal status shall be questioned as well. These are the things that we have to inquire. And the fact that this production method is unknown and it's very closed and it's open to tricks and corruption, we have question marks. And some people criticize that the sacrificial will be unnecessary after artificial meat is developed on a full content. And this is criticized a lot in the global discussions that are never acceptable by the Muslim population. There could be some advantages or disadvantages of artificial meat, but it has different impacts on the food industry, and the sensitivity, the religious sensitivity of the Muslims require the producers to pay the utmost attention to production methods, because the artificial meat will be a second wave of GMO, as it is seen from our point of view. But as a result, the time has not yet come to make a definite decision of the halal status of artificial meat. There are a lot of undefined sociological and scientific data that is still unexplained, and there should be some economic, health, and social and socio-cultural dimensions to that. It should not be forgotten. Lastly, the cost of production, the acceptability, the naturality, the lawfulness according to Islam are the issues that are still
Şimdi
questionable,
yapayetle ilgili
and it is foreseen
bölümü
that
burada
artificial meat
tamamladıktan sonra
shall not be
bu açı bugünlerde
popular in
yine popüler
the
olan
near future.
Avrupa'da, Amerika'da
After
veya dünyanın
talking
birçok
about this
ülkesinde
artificial meat, I
eee
would like
YETIM
to
için yayınlar yapılan
start
Birleşmiş Milletler'in Dünya Tarım
to
Örgütü'nün
a new phenomenon
üretimi için
that is
teşvik ettiği
promoted
böcek
by
proteinleri
the
konusuna da kısaca
FDA,
değinelim.
that is, encouraged by many organizations in the
Protein
world.
kaynakları arasında
So the
böcekler.
insects are
Açlık ve
among
çevre
alternative protein
sorunları için ileri
resources.
sürülen alternatiflerden birisi de böcek proteini.
And the insect protein is one of the alternatives
Tüketildiği zaman
that are
bunların
presented to the use
vücudundan
of
else
the
edilen
people,
enerji,
to use of the
protein,
humankind.
diğer besin
And the
maddelerini
protein and the
insan ve
other
hayvanları
nutritive materials
beslenmeye
that are handled by the bodies
yetebileceği
of the
gruplar.
insects are pointed out to be sufficient
İleri
if
sürülen
used
iddialardan
in
birisi de şu, işte dünyanın
adequate
birçok
amounts.
ülkesinde bazı böcek türleri zaten insan
Some
gıdası
types of
olarak
insects are
kullanılıyor.
consumed as human food
Doğru.
in some regions of the world.
Çin'de,
In
Kore'de,
China, in Korea,
Vietnam'da,
in Vietnam,
Japonya'da,
in
çeşitli
Japan,
Afrika
in
ülkelerinde, Güney
other
Amerika ülkelerinde
diverse
böcekler
African
insan
and
gıdası
Asian
olarak kullanılıyor.
countries, the insects are
Bugün Dünya
consumed as human food. This is
Tarım
correct.
Örgütü'nün, Birleşmiş Milletler'in bildirdiği
And the
2000
world
civarında tüketilebilir özellik taşıyan böcek
and
bulunduğu
FDA and
bildirilmiş.
WHO tells us
Bunların
that there
genelde
are 2,000 different
kıl
types of
kanatlılar
insects that are
türü,
consumable,
un kurdu, uğur böceği,
and they are defined in this table,
bambur
in
böceği
this
gibi
graph.
böceklerin, yine Lepidoptera adını verilen kelebek güve,
Cleopatra and Lepidoptera,
Hemiptera adı verilen yarım
Hemiptera,
kanatlılar,
and Hymenoptera.
Himenoptera adı verilen karınca, arı ve benzeri
It's like ants and
yine yusufçuk,
bees.
çekirge,
These Odonata are like dragonflies, and Orthoptera are like grasshoppers.
halen insan gıdası olarak tüketildiği rapor ediliyor.
Are consumed as human food.
Bunların böceklerin ortalama protein değerlerinin kın kanatlıların %4 ile %54
And there we
arasında
see the values, the protein values of different types of insects. And of course, we see an approximate value, an average value here, and the range here. It ranges from 3.7 to 54 grams of protein per 100 gram.
Yine bunların yağ oranları
The fat is again between 4 to 50%. The carbohydrate is among 10 to 35. The minerals is 1 to 2 grams, and the calories is around 100 to 600.
yapılan bileşim analizlerinde hayli yüksek protein oranına sahip olabileceği.
So we see in this table that some insects may have a very high rate of protein.
Tavuk etinin protein oranı
But for example, here we can see some, insect, reaches up to 60s or even 80s, 80 grams of protein, which is like 80% protein. The meat and the chicken meat and the cattle meat has only 20% protein. So we can say that the insects are a substantial source of protein compared to cattle and chicken meat. We see here ants, the grasshoppers, the termites, dragonflies, and their ratio of contents. And we see a more comprehensive comparison of different types of meat, the animal meat and insects in terms of protein, fat, unsaturated fat and omega fats.
Bazı böceklerin lezzeti tadı neye benziyor? Bunu da çalışmışlar. İşte
So this is the reason.
termitlerin tadının tatlı fındığa benzediği, siyah böcek larvalarının kepekli ekmeğe benzediği, işte eşek arısının çam tavuğuna
that the insects are encouraged to
çizgili havuç kağıta kurusunun
be consumed, and but in this table we see the resemblances of their tastes to the current products that we are eating.
esansiyel amino asitlerince zengin olduğu, bilhassa
We know that the insects are rich in terms of essential amino acids and in tryptophan,
amino asitlerince zengin olduğu,
and its amino acids are quite abundant in
yine
this.
linolenik asit açısından
Its linoleic acids
kitin
are important,
böceklerde bulunan kitin maddesinin
and the chitin
yine bazı önemli
is like an
minerallerin
important
zengin olduğu,
fiber that is
bilhassa
abundant in the
kalsiyum,
insects.
bakır, magnezyum, çinko gibi
Iron,
minerallerde
calcium,
zengin olduğu.
copper, zinc,
A, D, E,
and
K,
different
C,
minerals are quite abundant in the insects.
Hocam çok özür dileyerek bölüyorum. Zamanımızı biraz açtık.
This information is about the digestibility of the insect meat,
çiftliklerde de üretilebiliyor.
and they are perfectly be
Hayvanı adı veriliyor. Özel sandık, kutu ve reaktörler
able to be, grown in some farms. They can be grown in different boxes. It's very costless to grow them,
sığıra göre 12 kat daha az masrafının olduğu
and its cost is like 12 times cheaper than the cattle production.
cırcır böceği, hamam böceği,
The cockroaches
kanatlar, karınca,
and the grasshoppers are the ones that are most popularly
kurutuluyor.
farmed
Değirmende öğütülerek
in some countries.
yağı, proteini
They are
eksiltiliyor veya
produced
un haline
and then
getirilerek
they are
gıdalara veya hayvan
turned
yemlerine
into dust,
ilave ediliyor.
and this material is added to food
Burada
or
hayvan yemi
the feed of animals.
amacıyla geliştirilen teknoloji görünüyor.
These were some of the technologies that I will skip.
Milyon dolar pazar değeri olan
I would like to
böcek üretiminin 2025
talk
yılında
about the
4 milyar
market
dolar
value of insect farming. It's $400 million in 2018. In the future, it is expected to rise substantially.
İşte böcekler pek çok
About the health risks,
zararlı mikroorganizma, ağır metal ve ilaç
we know
kullanımları,
that they
alerjen maddeler,
carry parasites, residues, the toxic materials, the allergens, etc.
açılıp ayrılamadığı için
Since their
bağırsaklarıyla
bowels cannot be, opened up, they are used, they are consumed with their bowels, and their bowels consume a lot of, organisms, bacteria, etc. And these can cause many diseases, especially in China. The anaphylactic allergic reactions are caused by 18 to 20% by the insect consumption. This is very important too. Depending on the breed, of course, the type of the insect, the allergens of insects and the glycoproteins within the insects are available, and 239 different allergens may be available within one insect according to the data of WHO. This is entomophagy,
en büyük dezavantajı
and the people do not want to consume that. The biggest disadvantage
iğrenmesi ve
is, of course, the religious and ethical, concerns. The people are disgusted, and they are given a propaganda by some people in order to avoid this disgusting, the disgust. The insects are killed and they are turned into dust and they can be added to the flours that we use or any type of food that we consume. This is an issue that we have to pay attention to, in my opinion, about religious sensitivity. We know that the consumption of insects is a matter of discussion in the world of Islam. We only see some hadiths about the consumption of grasshoppers, and we know that it is halal. But apart from that, all the spinal insects are deemed as pests, especially for the sects of Hanifis and Maghrebis. I lost the connection. In ethical means, the insect production can be seen as a remedy for the starvation in the world due to its low cost of production and farming. But our concern is that the starvation in the world is not caused by the scarcity of food, but by the unfair share of the world wealth. The fact that the food is regarded as a commercially profitable thing will not solve our problem. And since the Western civilizations think that consumption of insects is disgusting, the trick by adding insect dust to the flowers, to the existing flowers, is also something that is questionable even today. Thank you for listening to me with patience. I would like to salute you with respect and affection. This is our Halal and Healthy Food book. You can get it online along with the Halal and Ethical Research Journal that we issue on a monthly basis. You can also find it online. And some answers to the questions regarding the halal and ethical food production and consumption.